Okay, a speed stamping scene here, and I don't mean I'm going to put this in a time lapse here, but I just want to get a scene done very quickly because I don't have time to do a long one, but I really felt the need to sit down and stamp right now, so this is what I'm going to come up with in terms of a concept here. And it's always kind of a challenge to work within a certain parameter. Time constraint, compositional constraint. I didn't used to think that way, but I don't know, working around those photographs and things like that of late, and around certain limitations of them, I'm finding to be really fun, and especially like my, I don't know, scrap paper little layouts and things like that, and trying to make something out of it. It's really fun, and it kind of challenges the creativity, you know, in order to work around what, you know, might be limitations, and maybe making those certain things that might have been considered limitations into strengths. All right, this is the cloud cumulus. I used it upside down and I wiped off some of it up here. This is the road stamp right here, and I wiped this off a little bit up here. I want it to look like there's a little bit of light in the distance at the end of the line, so to speak, road or whatever. And this is just on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 quarter page piece of paper right here. Just something that, that I can kind of crank out and see what we can come up with in a short span of time. Okay, let's see here. I usually keep my I don't know, design staples right next to me in the form of the sedge filler. All right, I don't have it right here, and I'm not going to pause to grab it wherever it is, so let me just put in some kind of like little cracky little bushes around here. Actually, that might look pretty good. Kind of makes it look kind of uninviting on the edge there, doesn't it? It's like a really prickly and kind of hazardous if you ventured in there a little bit. Okay, and I'm just stamping this out on dye-based ink. If you haven't seen these videos before, that's what I typically use. Alright, so this is my horseman right here, and I'm going to do kind of more of a spookier type of version of this. I did this on a scene not too long ago, but I stamped it out without a head like that, so I'm just not inking up the head right there. It's like the coolest version of this stamp that I've done so far, and it's because it was, you know, I stamped it out without a head. It's kind of incomplete, so I don't know, it was really fun. And just something different, and certainly appropriate, I guess, for the month of year this is. Okay, there's my headless person right there. I'll put a pumpkin on it or something like that. I'll cut it out of a little orange piece of paper. Okay, and let's get a little bit of extra texture going on here. Okay. All right. Moving along pretty fast here. Let's put this headless horseman. This stamp is the Lady Rider, but I'm turning it into a headless horseman, which you can certainly do. Okay, this is a overhanging tree limb up there. It gets a little bit lost in the textures of the background, but I think that craggy kind of fingery, you know, look reaching in there kind of lends itself to a certain spirit, so to speak, kind of a visual, you know, feel, doesn't it? It's like everything's kind of reaching down. It's like everything's kind of being drawn, or at least the darkness of the night reaching down towards the figure. It's night, Halloween master, or whatever. Okay. The smaller version just coming in from the other side. Just, I don't know, for a little change in scale. You could use the same one, you know, on that side and this side, but I'm just changing up a little bit here. Okay, and let's see. Kind of going on with this real craggly kind of a feel in here. Let's add some of these reeds right here. It'll make this kind of road seem really kind of overgrown, and you know, there's like this kind of emotional encroachment or whatnot. I don't know, kind of feeling in there. So this is using no additional tones so far, but it's starting, you know, when you stamp everything out in black like that, especially like those clouds, you stamp them out in a light blue or something like that, and it's a billowy, you know, cloud formation in the tropics or something like that, something completely inviting. You stamp it in black, and the emotional tone of it, you know, swings completely, you know, to, you know, more of an opposite effect, which is always fun to play around with values and hue to create or to alter your, you know, the emotional tone of the piece. Okay, so anyways, I'm putting my little pieces of plastic back on my tack and peel acrylic blocks. If I don't do this, I tend to lose like these little things, so anyway, moving on. Okay, so let's do a really quick coloring of this, okay? Let's play around with some tones here. Okay, I'm going in with the Memento London Fog. It's a gray Oh, I'd put it at about a 30% gray or so, and it's pretty neutral. And it's not, you know, we've seen warm grays and cool grays. This one's pretty neutral. Go with anything though. I mean, you can go with a warm tone of any. You can go with a sepia here if you want to, or something like that. Here's the thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it kind of light right here in the distance, and it will pull the viewer's eye back into that direction, okay, if you leave it light. So how do you leave it light? Just don't ink it over, you know. That's what a lot of people ask me, that type of question when they see an end result of a piece. It's, how did you get that light in there? And, you know, it's because the pieces might get fairly dark, okay, so it's just predominantly dark. And to them, kind of a lighter area, just as far as the thought process goes, they think it's more of an additive process over from an inked up field of color, okay? But it's just simply a matter of just leaving it as is. Okay, now I might not want it stark white or something like that. I don't want it too bright anywhere. So let me go over a little bit with this. But I do have some changes in value going on, just for some variation, okay? Okay, you kind of want it, I want it a little bit dreary, you know, like really kind of heavy, kind of visually emotional weight to it, okay? Something like this. Alright, now I'm still going to bring in some black in here, so I want to get a pretty good coating with this gray, okay? But I'm leaving a little bit, I'm kind of going in here a little bit more and more with this gray, just because I don't want it too bright anywhere. Okay, but I do want to use some, I'm going to use some white pigment ink in there, so I do have to retain some of the white, just for an easier, kind of more graceful application of that medium and value being, you know, white. So it'll represent white, well, illuminated moisture in the air. I want this to be like a thick, kind of foggy night over in Sleepy Hollow, or so, I don't know, whatever, Sleepy Hollow, or anywhere where you might, you know, come across a headless horseman. Some people, when I posted my previous Sleepy Hollow scene, there were some comments like, "Oh, hey, you know, we stopped in Sleepy Hollow on a trip or something like that." I had no idea that was an actual place, so I had to look it up on you know, on the internet just to see exactly where it was. I don't know. I just thought it was a fictional location. I mean, you know, the story is, but you know, I didn't know it was named after an actual place, which I find really cool. Alright, see what we're getting at right here? See that lighting back there? Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit of shadow kind of underneath that horse over here. Okay, so like casting a bit of a shadow down here. Remember, if you have any kind of objects, they look pretty good with shadow additions. Okay, it gives them. You're saying that they're not just completely transparent. Okay, they're casting a shadow, meaning there's mass to them, visual weight, opacity, etc. And when you add that shadow, it represents lighting. So you add a shadow, you're adding lighting to the color scheme. Okay, a little bit of texturing in here with some ripped paper towel. You've seen probably this look before. even if you haven't done it before, it has that kind of jagged, irregular application of tone in that masked off area. Okay. I'm kind of adding a little bit more on the outside, and as I move in, I'm tapering it so that it goes from a transition from dark to light up there. The darker you make your dark areas, the lighter the light areas will seem by contrast. Because we're never working with actual light, until I will with this, one of these days when I use some LEDs or something like that. Someone gave me some good tips on that too. I want to employ the use of some lights in my scenes at some point in time. Okay, let's use a little bit of blue tones. I'm saying that with question marks. I'm thinking about it, not sure. I think I want to change up here. Let's go with something else. Let's go with just for the sake of kind of mixing it up. I do blue tones a lot. And it's not because I don't want to here, but I think I want to just change it up. Let's go with purple, okay? It's kind of purples, you know, the season of, you know, Halloween. Let's try it. This is Lulu Lavender. Wait, where did I just put it? Here we go. Lulu Lavender. Memento. Okay? Alright, so just... I put a lot on there. Anytime you kind of use the reinker version, you can get quite a lot of ink on there, of course. And it's basically like turning this sponge into a stamp pad on the stick, so, you know, just kind of be mindful of your application of it. You know, if you want to retain some areas that are really light. This color right here is not a real vibrant or dark value, so it's very light, so you don't have to worry about too much, but if you want to retain some of that white, just don't go over everything with it, okay? Alright, you see what that did there? It has a different kind of spirit to it now, kind of going over it with this color, doesn't it? And plus we've kind of bumped the, kind of the temperature, I guess, you know. The values too, I mean, it's become a little bit darker, but it's the temperature, that violet in there has kind of given this piece a kind of a cool tinge to it. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. I might add some other things in here too. Oh, I'll add some versifying imagery in the foreground here. But okay, let's add in some pigment ink. Moving along. Oh. Let's see. Yes, I do have my Sharpie here. So I just hand draw this in here. Okay. It's like the cape of the Headless Horseman. This is just a extra fine point Sharpie. It's just a small detail. Otherwise, you can kind of... There's that. Oh, maybe make a collar for the Headless Horseman. Otherwise, it's kind of... You can see the hair from the woman rider. And then I'll have a pumpkin on his... in his hand right there. And maybe I'll... Should I... I'm going to make this cape kind of really long and dramatic. I'll have it kind of hanging off the horse like that a little bit. There we go. Instant headless horseman. You get. I mean, it was instant when I didn't color in the head, but you know, as far as like a whole getup and things like that with the well, cape. Okay, cotton ball, and just your everyday pigment ink. This one's the Hero Hues here. Okay, I don't want a big blob of this now. Okay, it's supposed to represent, you know, this brilliant kind of diffused lighting, so I don't want it to represent, you know, blobby mess, you know. So you want to just take off, you want to tap off a lot of it off. So it's like you're just kind of dry brushing this into the scene, okay? Sometimes they take off too much, but it's better than having too much. Although you can't just wipe it, you can buff it off if there's too much. But anyways, this is why I've retained some of that lighter area back there, okay? Okay. Sorry, my hand's always in front of what I'm doing, I know. These videos. But anyways, see, I'm kind of working it out a little bit like that, so it's a little bit more diffused and it transitioning, okay? So you know, right there, it doesn't look like something, it's like coming out of the you know, the fog, or it's, you know, the horseman's about to return to it. I don't know, you know, there's a story in there somewhere, I think. And maybe I'll bring some of this fog out this way too. I'll put it around the horseman. Its feet, like a low-lying fog in the in this scenario. Something like that. I need to smooth it out a little bit. It is a little bit blobbed. I'm kind of rushing a little bit through this. And just because time is a factor. But that being said, I still want it the way I want it, you know. I'm not going to, I don't want to compromise. I just want the scene to be quick. What is a, be quick but never hurry, John Wooden. He's a basketball coach. Okay. So it's like this foggy path. Doesn't it look like it's illuminated now or something? And this look here, this kind of real soft white light, it's kind of more reminiscent of, you know, like a moonlight, right? Than, you know, sunlight or something like that. Okay, kind of a, you know, ethereal, kind of a atmospheric haze or whatever. Okay, let's go with a little bit of a darker perimeter. When this ink starts to dry a little bit, it allows me to apply a kind of a thicker coating of black here to make it darker. When it was really coated with that and, you know, wet with the London fog, trying to apply black over the top of it, it doesn't get as dark until that London fog starts to dry, because, you know, when you're tapping wet into wet, you know, if the color that you are trying to apply is just being tapped onto a wet surface, it's not going to transfer and stain, which is how dye-based inks work. They stain the surface of what you're working on. Okay, now I am going to pause this because I need a little pumpkin down there, don't I, for the horseman. That'll kind of become the focal point of the scene, I believe. Okay. Okay, I didn't pause for too long, but this is that little piece of paper, and it has... I found that this photograph here worked better for me for the color, I guess, of orange that I was looking for, even though this is coral, and I'm kind of working around some of these forms in here. It just... having that change in value in there, it just worked better for me than a piece of, like, say, orange construction paper or something like that, that was very uniform. I like the irregular nature of this. So, you know, when you're looking for little things like that, and doesn't it look like a little pumpkin or something like that? And instead of just being one neutral value of orange, I think that looks pretty good. Now that's way really too big, unless I make the head as the pumpkin. No, that looks like Jack in the Box or something. All right, let's make it smaller. You gotta shape it like this, but yeah, what I was getting at is, you know, don't rule out like a magazine or something like that for your needs, for your crafting needs. You know, we're often buying paper and stuff like that, you know, for most things, but I don't know, you can incorporate different things into your, or you can expand your repertoire of available media that you have into, you know, your newspapers and magazines and whatnot. Maybe you look through that and save it for certain colors. You know, people often have like little scraps of paper and whatnot. Why not cut it out or something like that? Whole pages of colors that you might want. And there'll be colors quite often that you just can't get somewhere else. Okay, so I'm going to put that pumpkin right there. All right, so I need a little glue, and let me go. Okay. Just went into my son's desk and got some glue. I don't even have glue right on my desk here. I rarely ever use it, but I should do things like this more often, because I really like the addition of such little features like that. All right, so there's my little pumpkin. Let me see about drawing a face on there. I found that if I drew it in... Now this is a printed magazine piece, so when I drew a face on there last time with something like this, I mean, this is such a small little piece. It was hard to get the details on it. Okay, here it is right here. And it's a good thing I checked, because I forgot I was about to draw the eyeballs in with a black pen. What am I thinking of? Okay, so maybe I do the black and the actually the black and the yellow might be kind of interesting. So let me draw it in with the black like this. Okay, can you see that face there? Okay, and okay, so there it is in black. But we want it illuminated, right? Because it's like a jack-o'-lantern. Alright, so that's kind of my foundation for that. Now I'm going over it with the yellow. Hopefully my yellow gel pen is working well. The gel pen kind of really sits on the surface, but it allows me to go back in and kind of extract some of it with the scratching technique. Okay, there it goes. I was sitting there thinking, oh wait, it's not even applying. Okay. It's hard to get the gel to stick to something so slick. It's kind of a messed up face. Let me try the white here. It's not lost. I can always just scratch it right back off and start over. Okay. It's starting to build up, that's the thing. So I need to kind of, let me see here. I'm seeing if I have a really bright yellow. Here we go. But it's starting to build up on here, so what happens is you start to kind of dig into the, yeah, here, let me, actually that wipes right off. Kind of. Okay, let me try to get that face back on there. I almost need to apply a workable fix-it. It's so slick. It's like trying to draw on glass with a gel pen. I don't know how I did it the last time. I may need to let this dry or something like that, or spray seal it. With a workable fix-it, something with a little bit of texture. Alright, let me go back to that first gel pen. That seemed to be the case. It's going to be the majority of this video is going to be drawing on this like tiny, like 1/16 of an inch face on this pumpkin. Okay, here we go. I don't know, for some reason this gel, it's thicker or something. It's applying easier. There we go. Okay. Back to the black gel pen. I'm going to put in some of the little ridge, you know, those ridges, the texture on the pumpkin if I can. It's not applying very easily. Okay, there we go. Now, here's like this is my scratch knife right here. I use it for things like stamp board. It'll allow me to just kind of sharpen up some of these gel pen applications a little bit. Okay, so anyways, there we go. That's what that looks like here. And, oh, I mean, I have these alcohol pens. Let's put a little, it looks awfully orange, so let's put a little shadow on him. If it's too orangey or we want a little bit of a tone, then why not use our alcohol inks? The alcohol ink kind of puts the that gel ink kind of back into solution, so it's removing some of it as I do some of this, but that's okay. Here's a little bit of a greenish tinge. I just want to kind of dirty up that pumpkin a little bit more. Plus, I mean, that pumpkin wouldn't be so light in value because it's kind of at nighttime. You want to see that glowing face even more. Okay, so anyway, that is that. Let's go in here now with some additional foreground textures, but let's change up and go into my VersaFine black, which is going to be darker now. See, that's was stamped in black right there, right? With my black Marby pad. Okay. But let's do a VersaFine and let's do a little compare contrast type of thing. Okay. I'm not trying to match it up with those branches. I have a little bit more off center, so we'll take advantage of the lighter version of the branch playing against the darker version, so we'll create a little bit of depth within that space. See that right there? And see those other ones that are lighter look farther back in the distance. So we're playing the values against one another. Okay. Has that really kind of ominous feel, like something's really reaching down towards that figure, although that figure wouldn't be scared. It's supposed to be scary, so. Okay, and here's these branches right here. We'll do the same thing. Okay, see that depth that we're working there? And let's do the same thing down here in the foreground. Kind of create this whole kind of area of foliage and whatnot. It puts us as a viewer of the scene kind of hidden, you know, from the figure. Not really safe distance or anything like that. I wouldn't want to be here looking at him, you know, or hiding from it. But I'd rather have that than out in the open. Alright, this is the larger version of the reeds. Okay. So it kind of just layers against the smaller ones that are lighter in value. So all right. A little tinge of some color on that horse wouldn't hurt. Kind of doing it in the darker color, and then what I do is I go back in with a lighter color of the same hue, okay? And I'll just kind of spread that around and incorporate it in with the image, the object, more specifically. Alright, now I did bring in some pigment ink over the top of it before. Now that has kind of superseded that layering, so let's go back in with the pigment ink over the top of that again. See where it's kind of real blobby like that? Let's transition that up again with the use of the pigment ink, okay? So it's like, it's a little bit, you apply, then remove, and apply and remove. I mean, you're not physically removing, but it's just it's like a visual removal of it, okay? So you're just kind of going back in and reintroducing. It's like this object right here. We stamped it out in black to begin with, but I don't know, we layered over it with a bunch of different tones and whatnot. So you just go and restamp it, you know, not to bring the initial impressions back out, but just to kind of reincorporate that image in with that area, but as a closer version of it, or why not? Yeah. Okay, so I need to be careful when tapping this down, because if I go over that versifying pigment ink, it's going to leave in fact, I think I did. I think I blurred it somewhere down here. I picked up a little bit of it, so, and I made a print of it. So let me just go over here with a little bit more white ink. Okay, right back in there. And let's see if I have any available areas that I can use some of my white gel pen for highlighting. Let's see if we can do some of this. Kind of bring out some of the branches in here, like that, where it's like they're reflecting some of that light. Now see the branches, and this is like a subtle little detail, but the branches that are over this light, I'm putting the highlights on the underside of them, okay? So they're being bottom lit. And the branches that are underneath the light, I'm having them top lit, okay? So it's just this little subtle nod to the lighting direction in the scene. Okay, you see the little highlights? It's a little bit too much in some areas, but who cares? I just wanted to bring some of those areas to life a little bit. It's like, it could be a little like bioluminescent, you know, bioluminescent, or just, yeah, is that it? Little figures kind of buzzing around. Actually, that being said, let's do something right here. See these little, oh, I know. I'm doing them in white, right? Oh, too. Okay, so I'm going to put these little eyes hiding in the bushes. But then let's also put in a few little buzzing, kind of yellowish fireflies, just to give that pumpkin something to, the color of the pumpkin, something to relate to in another part of the scene, okay? We'll keep it fairly subtle, though. Okay, so anyways, this is my like mini version of that Headless Horseman that I did not too long ago. Alright, so here's, is this the yellow that was working real good in here? Alright, so let me put this little yellow dot here. Oh, this is going to get tricky when I'm working around that wet versifying pigment ink, okay? Okay, so just single yellow dots like this. I think it'd be better if I did it in green, but I'm just doing them in yellow just because it relates to the pumpkin a little bit more, the jack-o'-lantern face. Okay, so see those little yellow dots like that. Alright, they somewhat just they disappear into the surrounding area. Okay, so let's see if we can kind of bring them out a little bit more with the use of texture. Okay, so just your white pigment ink again, and a very dry application of your pigment ink. This tip's getting a little smashed like that. Let me see if I can. Okay, I don't want a real wide application of this. I want just a very dry, very small application. Okay, let's see if I can do that. Just barely tapping. I'm tapping it to where kind of it takes me a few taps before we even see, even I can even see this little glowing little sphere, okay, forming around that, on top of and around that white dot, yellow dot, sorry. The white dots are supposed to be like eyeballs. These are supposed to be like little, glowing little lightning bugs or fireflies. Okay, there we go. So there's all fireflies in there. It's like this little magical light show going on. Okay, let me see if I can make that pumpkin glow without removing. I want to make sure that I'm not removing that pigment ink, which could happen. Not pigment ink, but the gel pen ink, sorry. Let's see if I can get that face to glow a little bit. Yeah, kind of. You see where I've kind of tapped it over some of those features, making it a little bit more glowing. Okay, now that cape kind of stands out a little bit, so let's kind of knock it back a little bit. It's because I colored it with a Sharpie pen, you know, to define it. So it's a little bit shinier black. The blacks don't match up, so just kind of incorporated it a little bit with the use of some pigment ink. I should do it. Okay, anyway. So that's my little writer in the night with his little firefly accompaniment. And this scene took a little bit longer than I thought. I was working on that pumpkin for like 10 minutes, and a little tiny little feature in there just to get that right. The gel pen wouldn't apply to that, but one of them did. So I don't know. I guess different brands or different. I don't know. I thought they were the same brand, but I don't know, different chemistries of ink and whatnot. So, anyways, just a little simple. Okay. It's a very layered area, but it's still very simple. Okay, just a road, little filler stamps on each side. You can't even really see that texture in there unless you look really close, and then you can see it. Okay, but for the most part, there's kind of two areas of light. It's really continuous here, but I do come in here with a little bit more tone, so it's kind of that thing about having a light source and a reflected light, and the way you differentiate those two is just to have a little bit of a darker area in between those. So I guess the writer serves as a kind of a separator of these two areas, but for the most part it's like this and like this. And I have this video out there called Easy Scenic Lighting, where it just talks about, you know, just a simple area of light and then the reflected light down below, especially when it comes to a quarter size piece of paper like that. 2 areas will suffice on, you know, you can get away with that on 90% of the cards that you do. And it's very effective, and it's kind of to the point in terms of creating that lighting and visual dialogue between those two areas. Okay, so anyways, some branches coming in from each side, really focusing on the figure, and reiterating the lighting direction with the use of some highlights within those objects. Okay, so see those branches above my light are bottom lit. Okay, can you see that? Especially on this larger one. And then this, when it gets down here, the lighting is now above it, so I put those highlights for the most part on the top sides of those. You don't have to be that, precise or anything like that. Some dots can be on either side, but it's just one way that you can go in and reiterate kind of some of the looks that you're going after. Okay, this I need to compensate for the exposure on this. Okay, so I turned down my exposure compensation. Now that the final scene is dark, it was really light in the view, but this is, let me see, I'm looking at my screen here, and my screen is a pretty good indication of what is being recorded here. That's about how dark the scene has become. So anyway, so fun stuff. Pretty fast, not as fast as I'd wanted it to be. I wanted it to be about 15 minutes or something like that, but I ran into that pumpkin issue. So anyways, not too bad. Quarter-size card. Makes for kind of a fun little Halloween card. I should put some kind of quote on the inside of a card. I should format this up. But anyways, kind of a fun scene to do. And you can do that with any kind of horseback rider. Just don't draw on the head. And, if you want to, you can kind of put that cape on there. And, I don't know, just cut out a little orange pumpkin and draw a face on there with your kind of a white or a yellow gel pen. Little black stem on the top if you want and whatnot. So anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for tuning into the channel.